And so unfortunately, Dr. Joanna Post is sick and she cannot join. We're very sorry about this. We wish her the best. And so we prepared something to come down to start this meeting, something that GlobalCoast is aiming at. It's, in my experience, a very rather unique moment. Do we have it? Yeah, thank you. Is an example only.
Here on Tybee, there are days when people can't get to work or can't get to school. Unfortunately, flooding is a routine event that we need to better understand because it's no longer a once every 100 years kinds of issue.
Our data is really helping to this community understand not just where water levels are today, but also think about where water levels are going to be in 20, 30, 50 years. This is something that's in this community's doorstep right now, threatening the lives and livelihoods of every resident in Chatham County. The Smart Sea Level Sensor project is a project that involves a partnership between Georgia Tech researchers and Chatham County and City of Savannah partners merged to tackle coastal flooding. What we're doing is we're installing real-time internet-equipped sensors across the county to relay data back on the status of water levels across the area. And our joint purpose is to keep people safe during increasing events of flooding across the county.
We've seen a noticeable increase in the number of flood events here in Chatham County and really along the whole Georgia coast. This is happening with a much higher frequency. Also, more recently, a number of hurricane named storm events that have affected the community led to evacuations at a much more regular basis.
This is cutting edge technology that's being applied in real time to our city. And this is going to help inform our decisions and save lives. I mean, it doesn't really get any better than that. So for Georgia Tech to come down here and offer this capability to our city, it's an incredible opportunity and one that I'm looking forward to growing into the future.
There's several components of the water sensor project that are instrumental in decision making when it comes to an emergency response. With having these sensors throughout the community, it allows us to see in real time where the flooding issues are and allows us to be able to make real-time decisions as to where resources need to be deployed.
And so you think about the tourism industry, you think about the fishing industry. These are aspects where if you have a degraded environment because of coastal flooding that goes unmanaged, then you're going to have immediate impacts on the lives and livelihoods of residents here.
This project is completely about the partnership with Georgia Tech and the local community at all levels, the cities, the counties. The partnerships that they have brought to the table and the investment that they have brought is critical for the success of this project.
So students are our best asset at Georgia Tech. I mean, we have this crop of amazingly talented students, and they actually are clamoring for real world experiences. They want to be part of the climate solution.
To see really these world-renowned professionals and academicians really taking interest in what's happening here locally. We're gratified for that. We think it's necessary. Obviously, the better we are able to forecast and understand our environment and how water flows in and around us, the better we are for emergency planning, for ingress and egress out of our community.
It is really around how we engage the community in this work and understanding all this really highly technical data that we're receiving on sea level rise, but translating that into something that's relevant for Savannah's day-to-day residents.
It's basically a tool for making large-scale physical maps of the places we live. And these maps can run up to 16 feet or bigger. The projection on that table guides people as they identify which are the streets, the parks, the waterways, and other elements that make up their neighborhoods that are important to them. this creates just a kind of a rich context for people to have all kinds of discussions about what matters to them and how to make representations of the place they live that accurately represents their experience.
In their classrooms, students can work with the data that we're learning from the sensors, but also actually putting the sensors together, assembling them, working with Jenkins High School here in Savannah, where the students have actually been doing the assembly, and 30 of the ones we have deployed, they were a part of.
Here at Jenkins with the Smart Sea Level project, after you get your initial assignments done, you get assigned to either soldering or getting the cases ready.
Knowing that they have their hands on a project that could help people in the future is pretty important to them. We're not just doing this for immediate response. We're working on something that could have, future impacts 25, 30, 50 years from now.
The engagement and awareness that they talked about was critical to where we are with Savannah. I really want the citizens to really own this process, to feel like they're a part of it.
This change is going to take quite a bit of time and quite a bit of conversations that have to be made respectfully, with sensitivity to the economic pressures, the cultural drivers, and the capacity needs to be built from the ground up.
Georgia Tech is listening, responding, and coming up with ideas and solutions that the community can then assess, agree with, and implement.
This is the reality that we're living in and the global climate that we have. Sea level is going to continue to rise, and how do we inject that into our urban plan, into our neighborhoods to better inform us and make better decisions in the future?
We are here for the long-term process as well, and everybody needs to know that, and that's how you build lasting partnerships that can be impactful in something as sticky as coastal flooding.
Bye.
With us. She's one of the sustainer of Coast Predictor from the very first moment. So she hasn't been able to be with us now, but she is, certainly with us to develop these best practices for getting the communities involved. Okay, so now that we have been inspired, we go to the other important part, the GlobalCoast Network MOU. Billy will introduce.
Okay. The GlobalCoast Memorandum of Understanding. Okay, you have seen this already. Just a reminder, since we're starting the GlobalCoast session, that we have 130 pilot sites, 66 countries, 225 partner institutions. And we have prepared and disseminated and worked with many of you on an MOU text. So the purpose of doing that has been to really strengthen the systems, the global coastal observing and prediction systems under the Coast Predict program, because I remind you again that Global Coast is the main implementation vehicle for Coast Predict. We want to enhance coastal community resilience and foster collaborations, capacity building, and technology sharing. So the key actions have been 4: to coordinate the Global Coast Network activities, and the aim is really solutions, integrated coastal solutions. We want to promote partnerships and exchange of knowledge across pilot sites. This is a very important aspect of the concept of the global coastal ocean. There are coastal sites all over that appear disconnected, fragmented, if you wish, but that is not true. They are connected, and it is very valuable to be part of a network exchanging their experiences. To align efforts, of course, with UNESCO IOC, because all of this is still under the UN Ocean Decade, but also with other international programs that were happening before the decade. were spun off during the decade and will hopefully continue after 2030, after the decade, and to develop risk management strategies and the early warning systems. Numbers keep changing. That was 3 February, and I'm told that today is 25 signatories, every day more, from several research institutions. We have institutes and centers of research like CMCC, universities like University of Bologna, marine and environmental forecasting organizations like the Australian Integrated Marine Observing System, regional and international observing systems, Caribbean Coastal Ocean Observing System, private research companies and consultancies, Ocean Data Network, just some examples. This is the list, again, as of February 3, and we have more, and we are very optimistic that we will have more and more in the days and weeks and months to come. We expect that everyone in the Global Coast Network will be an MOU signatory. We have a detailed text, of course, and that is available. Oh, maybe that's the updated that Mered inserted. Okay, without taking, okay, so please take this photo. I saw many people taking photos, so yeah, it's getting hard to put on one slide. So I'm not going to read all the text, but just maybe the red letters I highlighted. So this has a very, of course, detailed and legal language that has been vetted with legal experts, and CMCC was a very big help on supporting that. So it is for the Coast Predict program. It has the objectives right there in the MOU in terms of reducing risks, improving lives, and that requires the understanding of the coastal ecosystem. It requires addressing the impacts of climate change on coastal communities, bolstering resilience. So we are forming through this MOU the network, calling it the Global Coast Network. And the signatories agree on some very basic articles. Again, the main thing is to coordinate activities under the name of the Global Coast Network. It has been a lot of effort, and with the input from so many of you, to make sure that the legal language is such that is not so restrictive that, you know, some people would not be able to sign. So it has the key elements, and it is mainly the network activity. There is no financial obligations of any kind and so on. So that is to support the implementation of the Global Coast Initiative. It is to promote partnerships, to promote capacity building for GOOS in the global coastal ocean, science, technology towards resilience of coastal communities. That was the purpose, the objectives. Again, promote the implementation of Global Coast, foster the implementation and sharing of coastal science and technology, facilitate activities. I mean, you will recognize that these are words that are easy to accept, you know, facilitate, promote, foster, okay? Facilitate knowledge sharing, capacity building, align and contribute with UNESCO IOC programs, membership and governance. Again, it describes the members and the members' assembly. The signatories are the members, right? They're the institutes, the signatories are the members. The assembly is formed, and, you know, in a way, we are in the first assembly, because once, I should say that right up front, once we had even 3, I think, signatories, or 2, 3, it was in effect. So it has been in effect because we have 25 signatories. So this is the first assembly. So the assembly will elect 2 chairpersons. There's a secretariat that will be responsible for certain activities. There is an article on financial and legal matters. So that is very clear that there is no exchange of finances. Every member bears their own costs for attending meetings, for participating in activities. No joint and several liability, you know, also been made very clear that might arise from the terms herein. We clarify that any results to which this MOU may lead shall be intended to satisfy exclusively a public benefit. So again, no member can, use the results for their own benefit and say that it is restricted. Nothing in this MOU shall imply any formal legal relationship among the members. It could not be any clearer than that. Other matters that will be, as I said, it has been already effective. That's it. People can leave with notice in writing and so on. It is purposely made to be as simple as possible and to really focus on the networking value of the MOU. I think that's it. Oh, just to get an idea, there are attachments. This is the form, the people signing, the signatory of the institution, and that's it. So Nadia, what comes next? I'm done. Well, maybe questions or comments. I'll ask instead of the chair, or the chair can ask.
Oh, sorry.
Many of you have participated already in a lot of the work and, comments and so on. So, which were inserted, of course. But
so we prepared this, and we have to thank also the advice of the legal office of CMCC that was capable of translating into the right language, which maybe some of these organizations have appreciated because it's legal language and so. And we actually have to thank, I have to say personally, I should thank also Terry from the DCO Ocean Observing, because he made, from Fugro, he made a very clear review of all the implications from a private company point of view that would have been damaging the participation of companies. So that was a very important. And personally, I will also send him a thank. And
I would also like to thank Giovanni because, he did the whole thing with CMCC and the legal team and really. So anyway, these are the key people, but lots and lots of other people got involved in this.
Okay, so we go to the very interesting part now, because that I give it for given that we have Mered talking about the GlobalCoast first paper on the survey.
Okay, so I'm going to start with a photo. You might recognize some people. This is the group photo from the 2023 Coast Predict General Assembly, which is in Bologna. I joined that year online, and the big discussion was about pilot sites, selection of pilot sites, criteria for pilot sites, what information we needed to know from pilot sites, how we would collect it, and how we would reach the people at the pilot sites. So in the following months, the Coast Predict Board and Executive Committee spent many hours discussing and drafting a survey, which was launched in July 2023 as a call for the pilot sites. And when we launched the survey, I said to Giovanni, I said, there's going to be an immense amount of information and a lot of work to do. And he said, no, don't worry, Mairead. If we get 50 pilot sites, it'll be a great success. And of course, we know now that we have 130 pilot sites in 30 regions, over 230 partners in 60 countries. And I think what's amazing about an event like this is I've looked at this map so many times and all of the pinpoints. And when you come to an event like this, the pinpoints turn into faces and you meet the people behind the pilot sites. And that was one of the strengths of the GlobalCoast survey as well, was that it wasn't just that we were asking about the science of the observing and predicting, we were also asking about the story of the pilot site. And we were asking who needs the information there. And I think tying in with some of the discussion that happened in Restore Our Coasts breakout this morning, we were asking what it meant to people at that pilot site. So the different colours on our map are based on an earlier categorisation of the coastal ocean by Robinson and Brink. So in the 2010 10 volumes of the seas, they described 32 contrasting coastal regions based on the offshore regimes, freshwater influences, and different processes of importance. We added 2 additional regions to include the Pacific Islands. So we now have 34 in total. And whilst the Robinson and Brink definition was more connected to open ocean regimes, Coast Predict now gives equivalent weight to the landward components of the coastal ocean and the coastal communities that rely on the coast. And as I mentioned, the socio-economic activities in each Global Coast pilot site should help to define the priority challenges connected to coastal resilience. The cultural values and perceptions of the coastal environment should be considered in the co-design of the systems there. So with some inspiration from the Robinson and Brink's The Seas, we propose now that together with all of you as co-authors, we can bring together a really valuable synthesis about the current state of the coastal ocean with respect to coastal resilience. And what we're thinking is that we could first of all produce a paper based on the initial analysis, and then following that, we would aim to compile 2 special issues. So we have a draft of that first paper. Nadia, Samantha said, lucky, Reba and myself worked on this at the end of last year. And we have a working title, TBC, towards a resilient global coastal ocean, insights from the first Global Coast Survey. And the summary synthesis, you'll have seen this, I'm sure, several times in the last couple of days. Before launching the survey, we spent a lot of time drafting and redrafting what the impact areas would be. So we ended up with 9. We tried to capture all of the possible impacts that might be relevant for coastal communities. And as a pilot site, if you submitted a survey, you were able to select up to 3. So we know that disaster risk reduction and the longer term impacts of climate change were by far the most frequently selected. I should note that when we first saw this graph, we wondered immediately if there may have been some bias in terms of who we reached when we disseminated the survey. So we might have expected that sustainable food production and urban oceanography might have had greater importance. So that's something to bear in mind in terms of who we reached. And I mentioned earlier that one of the strengths of the survey is that we asked people to tell us who needs the information and who will use it. So this chart shows different categories of stakeholder with very tiny text. I'm sorry. The blue colouring illustrates stakeholders who are likely to need short-term or weather forecasts. The green we categorise as stakeholders that need more longer-term climate timescale predictions. And then the pinks are those that we counted as both. So the other point to note here is that some of the slices of the pie are pulled out. These represent downstream stakeholders and the other slices represent upstream stakeholders. And the distinction we made there is that upstream stakeholders, those are the stakeholders that we think will generate information from what the system delivers. So they will do further analysis to produce their own information and products. So for example, the research community, NPA management agencies, weather and ocean forecast centres. The downstream stakeholders then are the ones that we expect will primarily be using the information, but not generating any products themselves. So for risk reduction and governance. We also looked in more detail at what was described in terms of existing capacity at pilot sites. So we asked some open-ended questions about what observing capacity exists. And last year with Jay Perlman, I don't know if he's here, there you are, with Jay Perlman and Gada El-Sarafari and Ariba and myself, we looked at what the responses were. So bear in mind that we were extracting information from a paragraph of text. And we analysed this just as a simple yes, no, or whether capacity existed or not. And it's immediately interesting to see the gap in remote sensing for a lot of pilot sites. And also what we need to do now is to get a more real understanding of capacity at the pilot sites, is to go back to you and ask for more details. So for example, yes to in situ observing capacity was very different between pilot sites. So what we want to do is define categories of observation and ask you to respond in more detail about what actually exists. And And I think this could be based on the menu of solutions, which was presented yesterday, so we can align with what we're describing as the building blocks for observing. Similarly, we looked at the response to the question about what existing forecasting or prediction capacity exists, and 77% of sites noted that there was some capacity for prediction. So the next question was at what timescales, and we looked at responses. I credit Samantha with the definition of these timescales. We looked at those paragraph responses and, somewhat subjectively fitted them into the different timescales from hourly to climate timescale predictions. And looking, for example, at the climate timescale, only 25% of survey respondents said that there was some capacity for climate prediction at their pilot site. So, of course, we know that this is an issue, and especially when we compare it to the earlier chart I showed of the stakeholder types. So if you remember, the green and the pink represent stakeholders that we believe have an interest in these longer term predictions, and yet there's only 25% of pilot sites that state they have capacity to do that. So I sum up after that brief summary of the analysis that we've done initially by saying that this is an invite to co-author this with us as the pilot sites who've contributed the data and the information. The first paper draft paper based on that initial analysis we hope to have ready later this year. And we would then invite volunteers for the editorial board to help us work on special issues. And to compile these special issues, we would ask for that more detail about the pilot sites, getting into more defined categories of what observing there is and what prediction and so on. So we would then aim to compile a special issue with a global synthesis, and then an issue with separate contributions from pilot sites, most likely based on the regions that were defined. So that's it for now, but we'll be in touch. Thank you.
Questions? Yes, please.
I have one comment, and as obviously you're getting at Robinson and Brink, and as you say, they are deep ocean people coming into the coast. But I think dynamically you have to start thinking at kind of the processes, and we're missing kind of the point of the tidal mixing fronts, coastal seas, and the kind of freshwater input areas like in the tidal mixing front area, you have like the North Sea, which is a quite big one, or the Northern Gulf of California, and then you have the freshwater like the eastern North Sea, or kind of the Delaware coastal current area, or even the Columbia River area sort of thing. So I think that should be put in there somehow. The other one is, have you thought of which journals are you thinking about for the special issues?
So yeah, we're thinking about options for journals. So the state of the state of the planet.
State of planet.
Yeah, as some sort of a synthesis, something that's curated kind of for a wider audience. So it's not just a scientific publication yet.
Have a response to your comment? Yeah, of course, but you're talking about processes, and here we're trying to do it geographical, and that's what the sea did, so it is bigger, areas. This is why using a boundary areas that are influenced by boundary countries. So you need the offshore. It's not only because they were deep sea people, but this is a very geographical, characterization. Within each of those areas, you can have, of course, river plume areas, and you can have tidal. So, but in a paper, again, one could discuss process-wise, So this is kind of geographical distinction. Jason has that. Okay. Please.
Thanks, Lily. First, I'd like to say that looks brilliant, and I, really happy to participate in this. The mapping of the pilot sites, have you actually tried to geographically, map them, just the regions that they represent, and moving away from the pins on the global map to actually small areas that they cover? Because I think that could be a really interesting insight in the actual scale that they represent.
Yeah, so through the pilot site, we asked for the boundary definitions of the coordinates of what people were putting forward as a pilot site, and we haven't gotten to the point yet of actually doing that as polygons on the map, but we have the data there to do it. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I think this is very good. And in addition to that, I would like to, meaning that we have to go to Zoom, yeah, the rivers, the tidal mixing fronts, all that has to be considered, and what measure is what. There is also another effort that was published. I was trying to find the paper, I forgot to bring it. Was published by Oceanography Journal on the classification, a new classification of the world ocean coastlines on the basis of physical, sedimentary, and chemical properties, which is on stretches of 100 meters. Okay, so this is a very great effort. And we were thinking that when we do the spatial issues, the synthesis, we will get together with these other people that have done this. It's not a UN Decade project, but is something that was done marginally. And, you know, I was hoping that with Jo Hopkins, that she is the one probably most interested in that aspect, we could discuss about this part. It's geology, chemistry, river runoff, and many things. And it's a very, I will find it, and then maybe we'll show the first maps. They have also characterized on many, many variables. So we have to consider that too. And Zoom in our pilot sites, for sure. Yeah, just forgot to say that. And this is part of the synthesis. Let me tell you also, I mean, the structure of the synthesis and the pilot sites is something that is the sea volume structure. The sea volume structure is 2 volumes with synthesis and 2 volumes with single, not only pilot sites, sites overviews of knowledge in this. So we use the same format. It might be seen as the revisited global coastal ocean. It is the global coastal ocean. The volume of the sea are the global coastal ocean, and that may be revisited, the global coastal ocean, after our survey and with the people and so on. Timeline of this, Samantha was, we were trying to depict with her, she was a big thinker behind this, and I thought that, you know, we could launch after the first paper, this first paper that Mired would lead. We will start next, phase of these other volumes toward the end of the year, if not to launch it at the next General Assembly, because we need a bit to settle down and see. So the timeline would be 2026-27 to have the revisited global coastal ocean. Mauro?
I was just wondering, are all the pilot sites active now? No, I'm just asking. Okay, excellent.
And what do you mean with active? Yes, but I say yes, but no, because I mean, active, the adaptation fund pilot sites are very active. Very, very active. Yeah.
I think it's an interesting question because, I mean, what we saw with the adaptation fund is some of them, very few, were not that active because maybe the chair was a change or changed job and so on. So we need to find a way, in addition to the projects proposal and projects implementation, to maintain the relationship with the pilot site. It's not straightforward, but I think it's important to maintain the relationship and maintain them active.
Or maybe one thing that we can do is to refine that based on the document that you just provided. So maybe we can redo the survey together with that document and then refine all the informations. Because we have a lot of pilot sites. So I don't think that's a problem if we end up reducing it a little bit. But let's hope we get everything there.
Asking more information is a good thing.
No, refining the information based on that document.
Somebody was, let me remember. Where was? Oh, yeah, sorry. Move on. Yes, I know. So I just would like to also, we were saying somewhere these days, but I don't remember when, that we would ask for more details. Now, Mered already said that we need to ask, what is this in situ that is, exactly how is it? I think the value of showing that remote sensing, Jerome, this is for you. Remote sensing is lower than in situ in the coastal area, which maybe that is something that we have to work on. Because remote sensing, use of remote sensing in these 130 areas is less than in situ. But so to finish my thing, we'll ask more information to complete this paper eventually, and then we stop. And then we do the second refinement. Mauro, is that okay? So we do first ask a little bit of information to complete this survey, and then we do a second refinement after, because we can't ask people continuously to give that other data. Okay.
We can supply a bunch of data on a DVD sent by post to every of the pilot sites, chosen data that could be useful for the application. We have to remember that the coast is the boundary between two different objects, and it makes a hard time for remote sensing to do a correct job, either ocean color or altimetric sea level and so on. We have the pollution from the other target. And so I should have insisted a little bit more. I think I did. We need to support the in situ data gathering to complement, especially the temporal sampling, because satellites don't come very often because the Earth is very slow to turn around, and we have a repeat track, and that we cannot change the physics of the orbital like a satellite. So in situ, support the in situ, and have space agencies support the in situ, because we need in situ to make sure we're doing the right job with the satellite.
Thank you. Very balanced as usual. Very nice. Okay. We go to the next. Yes, it's me that I should look at the time. Okay. We are already 15 minutes. Okay, fast. So next topic is GlobalCoast Governance. And the first topic, an important topic, is the presentation by the co-chairs. So how did we do here? We took the initiative as a board of Coast Predict to to ask for candidatures. Okay, so as a first, because we didn't know, we waited 3 members to sign, and the 3 members, so we didn't know what, sincerely speaking, we were a bit puzzled. So we took initiative as a board to contact people. It's not a surprise, it will not be a surprise for you who are the people, but it is something that we did. And we hope that we have your support in what we did, because the candidature are very important, in my opinion. So we have then, I already call it the GOOS Coastal Network, but we call GlobalCoast Network. So the first candidature that we asked for was by Professor Aletta Iniguez. And here she is. Let's see. Yeah. As you know, she's a professor at the Marine Science Institute at the University of the Philippines, and she heads the Biodiversity Center of Puerto Galera in Mindoro. She also leads SUSTAIN, that is one of our first UN Ocean Decade affiliated projects in Coast Predict. And she's very active in Global Hub and UNESCO IOC subcommission for the Western Pacific. And so let's ask her to come and give her speech. Declaration.
I'm I don't know what to say. Thank you for this opportunity. And there's a lot of exciting things going on, I think, with Coast Predict and the Global Coast. I think I remember not the first thing, email I had from Nadia was 2020, COVID. They were forming the steering committee for Coast Predict, and I didn't know what was going on, but I saw the vision, and I really, it resounded in me, because I thought, especially for the Philippines, this is something desperately needed. This was something we needed to pursue, because open ocean models will not cut it for many of the seas in the Philippines. And so I was excited, and when I met Nadia, eventually I got more excited. I think she has an effect on a lot of people. So yeah, and now align essentially many of the things that I do in the Philippines, from the biological oceanography and the ecosystem modeling aspects and the early warning for harmful algal blooms and for fisheries, they really align with Coast Predict and the Global Coast vision. So I really hope that we can putting all of this together and coming from the different perspectives and the context. I think that's important especially with the Global Coast. So, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Aletta. From the very beginning, as you remind, I didn't remember the 2020, even 2020. Wow. Okay, the second candidate, as I said, you wouldn't be surprised. We asked is a PhD in marine environmental sciences at the University of Bologna. He is the director of the CMCC Foundation program, Global Coast as a New Frontier. And he directed for several years the Copernicus Marine Monitoring and Forecasting Center following it without saying that he was very important to set up the system. He was a student, but even a first degree student, and he was already working to build the Mediterranean forecasting system. Currently, he leads the Predict on Time UN Decade and DOS project, which is a core project for Coast Predict. So let's welcome Giovanni.
Looks easy, but it's not, to share with you the enthusiasm for this candidature. I feel that, as Nadia was saying, I'm contributing. I'm trying to contribute since a few years to Cost Predict idea, and also because, especially because I have behind my shoulder CMCC. I mean, the institute itself is investing, has invested a lot in Cost Predict, so I'm a bit at risk as well. So we need to succeed because we supported the secretariat. I mean, we got the idea of that Cost Predict needed a secretariat. We convinced Mayred and Ariba to join. So it has been really an important investment. And moreover, with Nadia, in the last few years, we developed the idea of a program at CMCC, which is different but very aligned with the Cost Predict itself. So we are basically defining and developing the science with a large team, I'd say about 100 people at CMCC, focusing on the coastal area from the modeling, observing system, but also socioeconomic science and risk assessment. So I feel confident that our support, I feel supported and I feel committed. I like very much the MOU as it is, as Vili was highlighting, because I believe a lot in science that come out of partnership. Nadia's, I mean, I learned from Nadia since early 2000 to do that with the Mediterranean projects and with the GOOS Mediterranean Alliance. So we have done it forever now. And I think we will, I'm happy to take this challenge of working with you because I'm sure you will be supporting I feel your emotion as well and your commitment, and especially being close to Aletta and the board, I think we can do well. I feel like sorry because we have been selecting or somehow identifying the free adaptation plan to start with. In my attitude would be that we focus on all the regions of the world at the same time. So I already feel that we have gaps like Africa or South America, I mean, to mention some of them. So I would commit to enlarge the capacity, the project capacity, and keep the partnership. I mean, keep all involved, which is not easy. On the other side, I feel that is a good idea, the one of the board, to get really connect to GOOS and to IOC. It's not easy. I mean, it's easy because you feel you are part of a strong organization, but on the other side, IOC has its time, is a bit bureaucratic, and we have the support of Emma and also of the higher level, Joanna and Vider, and I met them once or a couple of times, and I feel they are committed as well. So I feel that we can succeed, especially because of that, and especially GOOS and IOC will be our long-lasting home, in my opinion, and I feel we will be successful also for that. So I'm very happy and committed, but on the other side, we need your help because I mean, otherwise it's impossible. So I'm sure we will get it. Thank you.
Okay, so now the secretariat, and so I don't know exactly how to do it, but CMCC has informed us that they will support the Global Coast with the secretariat that we have used for Coast Predict, so Mered and Ariba for the time being. And so they will be shared between the two, but we come in help with the DCCCR. We have more people for the coordination, and we will put them also to help as a cross-cutting activity of the DCCCR, as a very important cross-cutting activity. The DCCCR will come with a valuable insight and supported by the others. But the secretariat offered now is the one that we have been using all this time, and that is very valuable, so exceedingly valuable. So Ariba and Mered, where is she? She's gone? She's probably already working and doing something else. Yeah. Okay. We love you. We love you. So, okay, the secretariat. Good feeling. Yeah, good eye. Yeah. Okay, good. Now we started the next section, which is on collaboration. So this is very important because in the moment we are consolidating one thing, we can't wait. The decade is short. Microphone. No, I always have, no, but I had the microphone. Thank you. Yes. At the moment we are consolidating one thing, we have to do the next one. There is no stop here because the decade is 10 years. We are on time on certain things, a bit in delay in the others. So we need to continuously push forward. This is a very important part. I put a lot of value on that. And the first is a collaboration that has been asked from a long time by this very important initiative that is called Future Earth Coasts, and their activity in the Tour de Coast. So let me call Xiaoyu Fang, and thank you. She's actually not feeling very well, so
thank you, Nadia. Oh, this microphone does magic. Actually, I've been suffering from the throat infection today, so I will try to lower my voice to ensure that I can deliver the presentation. But I'm actually super excited than how I might sound. And I'm the executive director of Future Earth Coasts, and we're a global research network to support healthy coasts and oceans for just and environmentally sustainable future. And we built on more than 25 years of expertise, the former IGBP program, land-ocean interactions in the Coastal Zone project. And we support transformation to a sustainable and resilient future by facilitating innovative, integrated, and impactful knowledge mobilization. So we are a network to bring together various stakeholders who are interested in coast and global environmental change. And we promote co-designing and co-production of knowledge for solutions-oriented responses to coastal issues. And we try to add values to existing research programs and disciplines and to promote dialogue among scientists, governments, civil society, and research founders. So this is how we operate. We focus on three themes: dynamic coasts, human development and coasts, and eventually we explore the pathways towards coastal sustainability. And we identified four critical features of coastal systems. We call them hotspots: small islands, urbanization, the Arctic, and also river mouth systems. So this is a brief introduction of our governance structure, and our executive committee shapes our strategic planning, supported by our international project offices across China, Australia, Argentina, Ghana, and very soon we might also have an IPO based in Mexico. And we have our regional engagement partners who will facilitate regional engagement and stakeholder engagement at regional levels. And we have our FAC Academy, who are our ambassadors, which is composed of coastal sustainability actors of highest reputation. And Nadia is also one of our members. And we have a network, we call them fellows. They are mid to early career researchers. And we also support and do affiliation with projects and global networks. So this kind of partnerships further amplify our voices and ensure that we can make these globally coordinated efforts. And within our network, we also build working groups as bottom-up initiatives. And currently we have 5 working groups, just transitions, to identify pathways towards coastal sustainability, and the cyber coasts adopting a cybernetic and ecological energetics approach to promote sustainable coastal development. And we have long-standing working groups, Lagoons for Life, with a focus in lagoons, and also circles of coastal sustainability, integrating economic and societal factors. And this Mega Delta Working Group was endorsed as the UN Ocean Decade Program back in 2021. And with the development, and currently we have hosted 2 international meetings and published a report of Delta sustainability, and also established a comprehensive Delta database. And we also affiliated 3 Ocean Decade projects and awarded 16 international projects. And next up, I will introduce an initiative called Toward the Coast, and I actually see a lot of similarity when Merit presented the survey of GlobalCoast, approach-wise and also content-wise. So the aim of our Toward the Coast initiative is to engage the FAC network and beyond basically all the coastal sustainability actors, and to foster a global understanding of coastal sustainability. And we want to facilitate meaningful exchange among researchers, practitioners, and communities, because we see that in this community, everyone brings unique perspectives. This reflects diverse coastal systems, geographies, and socioeconomic contexts. So here, however, this kind of knowledge is often underutilized. So here we see this kind of opportunity to amplify our collective impact with this utilize the knowledge. So this is a brief timeline. So we launched the survey back in March 2024 to ask global respondents from global coastal communities, what is a priority, what is a barrier, and how do you perceive coastal sustainability? And back in June last year, we organized an interactive roundtable to further engage stakeholders, mainly indigenous communities. And by the end of last year, we closed the survey and we launched a special collection in the Journal of Anthropocene Coasts to collect global case studies of coastal sustainability. So this is some preliminary outcome, and in total, we received 212 survey respondents with balanced presentation in gender and age, and mainly these respondents from academia. And we asked our respondents the priorities for sustainability research, based on the papers from Kidman and Sandifer back in 2020. So we got those emerged themes that ranked higher: governance, individual, culture, community, and ecological health. And some elements that rank lower coastal disease threats and health benefits and also modeling. So the perceived barriers to sustainability, we can see lack of knowledge and policy, these gaps in policy and the decision-making and community action, resource constraints. So in this word cloud, actually, the larger the word is, the more frequently it was mentioned by our respondents. So another word cloud is outcome of participants' contribution to sustainability, and the key themes emerged: knowledge and research, community action, and the focus on coastal areas. And their contributions include sharing knowledge and data, developing and proposing solutions, raising awareness, and educating others. And we asked them, what do you consider coastal sustainability to mean in the context of your research? And we see those key themes like environmental protection and human well-being, climate change adaptation, and also some key concepts like resource management, intergenerational equity, and sustainable development. So when we broke down the identification proposed by our respondents, we found 8 broad categories, including ecosystem services, balance, societal needs, grand challenges, conservation, longevity, governance, and interventions. So we got the feeling that actually coastal sustainability is a holistic and multifaceted concept, including environmental conservation, socioeconomic well-being, governance, and proactive action. We hope this could guide decision makers to align strategies with these priorities, and this could highlight the need to address gaps in areas like equity and education. So when we were doing further analysis into the responses on the identification of sustainability, we found some building blocks that could actually form a narrative of coastal sustainability. So we started with societal needs that should be met by natural services and values, and it requires balance to address big challenges. So we need to come up with strategies that should be durable for the future generation. Therefore, we close the loop. So I think the most important element here is future generations and solutions should be durable. So we are now currently working on the final paper, the analysis of this survey. And for the next step, we're thinking about collecting more detailed case studies to establish some criteria. What is a successful coastal sustainability and just transitions in both resource dependent and independent areas. So at Future Earth Coasts, we're committed to empowering early career ocean professionals, not only knowledge puzzle, but also passion and dedication. So we actually have our interview series with women scientists, with our academicians, and also with the E-Corps, our fellows, and also with the editorial board of some scientific journals to amplify underscored voices and to empower E-Corps with meaningful networks and also professional growth. We also organize FAC Fellow sessions, which runs actually on a monthly basis to foster dynamic collaborations within and beyond the FAC network. So we also have a few initiatives that would empower ECRs and the knowledge pass on. We launched a small grant program funded by FAC. So this will be led by E-Corps. And we also have our Erasmus alumni network in which our FAC members actually served as instructors and coordinators. We have some ongoing cross-cutting initiatives funded by Future Earth with training elements, especially this one that's going to kickstart, that's empowering future leaderships. We are going to engage indigenous E-Corps. So actually we will start with organizing peer-to-peer sharing of indigenous and academic knowledge with indigenous E-Corps on Rarotonga. And then we're going to explore pathways together in just transitions, eventually with empower them with science communication and transdisciplinary research skills. So this is my last slide on the global outreach of Future Earth Coasts. So I look forward to more discussions and to exploring synergies, not only with the survey, to the Coast Survey and also Global Coasts, but also in a wider contact with BCCCR and all these presentations and partners and what I knew in the past few days. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Joe. This is very exciting to find out that this network, 25 years old network, has been resisting and has been, is it 25 years that you've been? Yeah, more. Yeah. So I think, thank you. Sorry for your voice. I felt terrible when you were talking. So I think that we can contribute a lot to this because you are quite complementary, even though there are overlaps, because it's clear that, you know, on the science and the technology and the training, but it's not an overlap, but is something that we can do together, right? So my advice to this assembly is that we write also our first paper, and we come together by you know, finding activities that are together that show that we can get together. Could be the meetings or other training or others. And now that you have presented them, and then you know, in few, let's say maybe 1 year, next year already, we plan of merging the networks so that we can work together on, you know, a very large network. In fact, opening the survey again for GlobalCoast might involve your sites, and we might share the output. So I think that, you know, it's great that you started already on the focusing on the cost, on the sustainability, the community involvement, and I'm sure we can learn a lot from you. So is there any other comment for the time being? So now you know that this is a process. We started a process, and hopefully we will find some good reasons for collaborating. More, please.
Thank you. That's very impressive work, and just grateful that how much emphasis you put in societal and society needs and kind of community participation. And my question is like some highlights of learnings that you have had about the challenge of including the most marginalized and vulnerable sectors, connecting to them, because sometimes they are not in the radar of the usual partners, or sometimes the usual partners actually are gatekeepers for the more marginalized groups. I'm thinking of people that society tends to make invisible, like people with disabilities or the elderly or the very poor, or sometimes it's native people who don't speak the dominant language. So if there are some highlights or learnings you have had about successful strategies to make sure that these great projects do not reproduce that exclusion, but actually try to help to include the more marginalized people.
Thank you. Oh, sorry, I'm still taking the pills. So actually, I have 2 bullet points. I think this morning in the breakout session, I was really impressed by the discussion that I think we should engage them at the beginning, the core designing phase. That's, I think, one of the take-home informations. And another thing I wanted to share is that our partner OceanCan is also a network of Future Earth, and we are going to team up in the Empowering Leadership project. And their strategy in engaging, for example, indigenous communities is that we're not parachuting e-corps or no, like advanced technologies into that community, Instead, we talk with them and we share our knowledge and we learn from them. And then instead, they also learn academic knowledge from us. Then they apply and develop strategies by themselves with application in their communities. So from the beginning to the end, actually, they lead, they design, and they deliver. So it's eventually for their good. I think that's a good strategy. Yeah.
And good experience, but there is a bit more in what you are suggesting, which is the diversity and marginalized extremely much, or people who have special needs. And that could be a new activity that we can undertake together because it requires a lot of attention. So, yeah. So thank you, Pancho. Pancho is part of our International Advisory Board in DCCCR. And we value a lot his experience in the marginalized communities that are the ones that really are hit. And not only that, but we will pick up this initiative. Maybe it could be something new for the two communities that could bring us together. Okay, thank you. And now another important part was already announced a bit. We had this formal invitation by the Mega Delta program. The Mega Delta UN Decade program. It's a very interesting program. It brings together all the mega deltas of the world with their problems, from the Nile to Amazon and Mississippi and Yangtze River. And so very interesting. I went there. I had the privilege to go to their meeting. And, it really is something that this community should know, how, experts in these particular coasts work. And today we actually have Zongpeng coming to tell us something absolutely fundamental, which is how to talk about dikes in a sustainable way. So thank you so much, Dr. Peng. And he's from East China Normal University, and he's going to talk about this, really looking back to the river where most of the problems come. Thank you.
Well, thank you, ECCCR and the CMNCC for holding this assemblies for this coastal resilience. And I'm from East China University, so Xiaoyu and I are both from this university. But today I'm sharing more research related to the engineering side. So it's kind of toward coastal resilience with ecosystem-based coast dikes, because as we know, coast predict can generate really good scientific data. But what we are doing is to transferring those data to engineering solutions. And that is also our targets of the Ocean Decade program, Mega Delta. Mega Delta is kind of just seeking the sustainable solutions for deltas. As just Nadia introduced, we have so far 16 mega deltas already collaborate together. And currently, there's 3 affiliated projects under this program. So, how do we help towards the coastal resilience? Because as we know, it's really challenging for our coast to keep the sustainable, also keep this resilience, because the climate change and also ecosystem damage and uncovered. So far, the international researchers and academic institutions even the industries are promoting the ecosystem-based coastal defense. That means we need to combine traditional engineering with the ecosystems together. So it's sometimes we call it hybrid breakwaters. So we are trying to not only to make the dikes more secure, more skilled, but also we are raise the ecological service functions. I'm today showing is how do we do some latest research results we did through the different methodologies. One is the field work, and we do have several. We have the fixed. Sorry, the sound. Yeah, sound is really that's real time the recording on the mud flats, and with lots of salt marshes. And we keep the monitoring the results over already 2.5 years. That's continuously monitoring. We spend a lot of money to maintain it. And also we have the facilities in the experiments like flumes. We have small scales and large scales to investigate how this kind of ecosystem-based coast defense protect our coast. Because we have the structures can be overtopping the structure if with the vegetation or not. That's our purpose. We also have developed a series of numeric modelings, like what we are talking in these 2 days, this kind of large scales, downscaling modeling approach from the global to the tidal flights. That's really challenging in the last part is because it's in the tidal zone, they are changing the water levels a lot. So we have to coupling the flows and the waves together to make it really challenging work, but we did really good, and we have lots of on-site measurements to validate models. But also we are looking for the small scales, the safety modelings. We're trying to work out how the waves interact with the single vegetation stems or even canopies. So how it works for those works. For instance, this one is with the overtopping and vegetation, flexible vegetation interactions. And so what our purpose now is trying to starting from the results from the safety to get the structure resistant or just wave structure interaction, the mechanisms to, in the end, we can get some quantified like jog coefficients or roughness. Then we can apply to our big scale models. Then we can get much better, much accurate results. And we now, based on those kind of methodology, we have several findings. For instance, for the wave attenuations and typhoon, can cause wave breaking on mudflat, but reducing energy. But vegetation can also aid attenuation. But during typhoons, wave breaking actually is much significant than the vegetation attenuation. Also, for the ebb tide and flood tides, the wave attenuation is completely different, and they do have the difference, even especially enhanced the difference during typhoons. And we found in the reality, the vegetation is not purely just one type, but they do have combinations. So we did several work and we found each vegetation, the contribution to the attenuation is non-linear. It's not linear. So that helps engineering to more easily to accurately predict the wave attenuation with multiple vegetation combinations. We also did lots of work for the seasonality of the changes of vegetation attenuation wave energies. And we found that there are indeed significant seasonal variations for the wave attenuation. We also found different, even for the same type of vegetation, along different locations, there are quite similar, even the different locations. As you can see, we select the Chinese coast with different location, but with the same type of vegetation. You can see the wave attenuation rate is kind of function of the relative vegetation width, no matter typhoon or normal conditions. So based on those conditions, based on this kind of research, we can determine how to calculate vegetation attenuation abilities. So this is really important for engineering designs. They need to design how big vegetation area, what kind of density, what kind of vegetation should be used to restore this kind or construct ecosystem-based coast defense. We also found that the spectral energy is different. It's kind of mechanics. So the low harmonics and the high frequency harmonics, they're both enhanced by the vegetation, but lower frequency harmonics is much more, proportion is much bigger. We also found that the vegetation can affect wave height distributions. And so far, existing distribution doesn't help to, is not able to well predict our measurements. So we did some research. We found that wave longevity is really important for this kind of shallow water wave propagation. So we introduced the Earth number to the two parameters, wave distribution, and we validated with different kind of typhoon data. And it results is really good in the right-hand side. And also we checked the wave overtopping discharge. And as you can see, the red line is the overtopping discharge with vegetated foreshores. So without vegetation, we are generally we are fitting the black lines. It's European Eurotop manuals. But with vegetation, vegetated foreshore, overtopping is decreased discharge. That means they can increase the dikes dike capabilities to defend the coast flooding or hazards. And what we do introduce this kind of parameters account for the vegetation properties inside this kind of wave overtopping discharge calculations. So we did lots of other works, but today we just want to share those kind of very direct effect of vegetation or ecosystem as functions help to prevent coast hazard in the climate changes. So this kind of conclusions I want to really go through, but I just want to share some, in our universities, based on the megadata project, we do have interdisciplinary research teams, not only for the dynamics, but also the sediment morphodynamics or biochemicals, and also like ecological function research teams. And I mean, we also welcome you guys to work together with us. Thank you, Nadia.
Yeah, so Mega Delta is one of the programs that I think is most relevant to be interfaced with us. So we will continue to discuss also the Decade Collaborative Center for Coastal Resilience, and they are already a big part of the Decade Collaborative Center for Coastal Resilience. And this interface with the engineering, we don't say it, but it's a very important outcome. So we shouldn't have only the policymakers, we should also have the practitioners, the people that really have to construct to be our interface, our recipient, right? So are there questions? Please.
Thanks. A bit of a science question, if that's okay. I'm guessing sea level rise has a big effect on the efficacy of nature-based solutions. And I suspect the balance between sea level rise and accretion of sediment that raises the seagrass or whatever up. I mean, do you have an appreciation of which wins out of those two competing factors? And I guess
That's a good question. I mean, different researchers have different opinions. I mean, in the Nature journals, they do have different articles to talking about different effects. Like someone said, the climate change sea level rise will be squeeze your salt marsh areas. So you, of course, will be reduced the capability of the mitigating the wave energies. But someone said also because vegetation can increase the creation of the bed, and of course they can you can break more waves, so the less of energy will be reached to the dikes. But I mean this is I mean it's competing effect depends on your location, I guess.
I learned. Thank you, Jason. Maybe there is another.
Thank you. Congratulations on a very impressive presentation. So my question is related to sediment transport. It's quite linked. So the capacity of sediment trapping of the vegetation is if you have planned to quantify, and also the storm surge effect. So the sea level attenuation, we've seen results in terms of quantity for what concerns the wave damping, and for the sea level, what is the attenuation that is expected? What are the main drivers to see at this attenuation, also for the total water level, not only for the waves?
So the first question you mentioned is
the sediment trapping.
Oh yes, yeah. We did several researches. Is on the review is we found the vegetation density. They do have a optimal densities to keep the most sediments. Because if some vegetation density is too loose, then the sand supplies can be increased, but velocity is still high because it's very loose. The velocity flow can go freely out, so it cannot create much. But if you're too dense, the sand supplies cannot get in. So they also cannot get much sediment deposition. So we found that there's like a criterion, or we have the threshold for the optimal densities. So this is really helpful for the ecological restoration for engineering. So I mean, you have to decide what kind of density you are going to restore. The second is you're talking about storm surges. I mean, as I just mentioned, because we did several work on that. So not only the water level increase, but also the storm intensities will be intensified. So that's what we are keep working on that. I think in the end, what our target is to make a guidelines for the engineers how to restore, or at least build up the ecosystem-based coast defense. And we need also provide the assessment methodology for this kind of structures or methodologies. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Last round. Okay, so I was able to make it again late. Sorry. Okay, so yeah.
That's it. You're banned. Okay, no, seriously, I mean, we're already late, and I don't like, going into 8 p.m. tonight. So we have a very important part now. We have presentations from